Welcome to the Papyrus Global TV Nigerian news update from Abuja. Security concerns has forced the closure of U.S. Embassy to major economic reforms affecting Nigeria's currency and new government initiatives aimed at fixing the country's power sector. We also bring you updates on anti-drug operations across Nigeria's seaports, new tax clarifications affecting artisans, and a major court ruling involving a top police officer. But first, let's begin with the top 4 headlines defining Nigeria's national conversation today. U.S. Embassy in Abuja shuts down temporarily over protest fears. Court acquits suspended police chief Abba Kyari of asset declaration charges. Fuel prices could reach 2,000 Naira per litre, clerics warn Nigerians amid Middle East tensions. Over 3 trillion worth of illicit drugs seized at Nigerian seaports in 5 years. Government clarifies tax rules affecting artisans like vulcanizers. Now the news in full. The United States Mission in Nigeria has announced the temporary closure of its embassy in Abuja for routine business, citing potential security concerns linked to planned protests in the Federal Capital Territory. In a notice released on Thursday, the mission stated that the embassy will remain closed until Monday, 9th March 2026. According to the statement, visa appointments originally scheduled for March 4th and March 5th, as well as American Citizen Services appointments planned for March 5th, have been rescheduled for next week. Visa applicants have been advised to check their email addresses or their appointment accounts for updated schedules. The development follows reports of possible demonstrations linked to the Islamic movement in Nigeria, which has staged protests in several states over tensions in the Middle East and the reported killing of Iran's supreme leader. Security agencies have since deployed personnel across parts of Abuja to prevent unrest. The embassy advised members of the public to monitor its official communication channels for further updates. Meanwhile, top Islamic clerics in Lagos have warned Nigerians to avoid taking part in protests over international conflicts they may not fully understand. The caution was issued by the League of Chief Imams represented by Sheikh Abdurrahman Ahmed, the National Missioner and Chief Imam of the Ansar Uddin Society of Nigeria. He spoke during the 2026 Ramadan Tafsir and Iftar program held at Lagos House. According to the clerics, Nigerians should be careful not to allow foreign conflicts to trigger unrest at home, particularly amid recent demonstrations linked to tensions in the Middle East. The warning comes after members of the Southwest chapter of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria staged protests in Lagos following the reported killing of Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei during strikes involving the United States and Israel. Sheikh Ahmad stressed that even when protesters have good intentions, demonstrations can easily be hijacked by individuals seeking to cause violence and destruction. He reminded Nigerians of the lasting consequences of the NSAS protests and urged citizens not to create further disruptions. According to him, Nigerians must exercise caution and avoid being drawn into conflicts that do not directly involve the country. Nigeria's Federal Executive Council has approved the establishment of a new grid asset management company, an initiative aimed at addressing long-standing problems in the country's power transmission system. The announcement was made after a council meeting at the presidential villa in Abuja. According to government officials, the new entity will focus on managing and strengthening national grid infrastructure, widely considered the weakest link in Nigeria's electricity value chain. While generation and distribution assets were privatized in 2013, the transmission network has remained under government control and has faced frequent grid collapses and limited capacity to move electricity across the country. A committee comprising ministers and key government officials has now been tasked with reviewing regulatory frameworks and investment structures before presenting the proposal to the National Assembly for legislation. Officials say the reform is part of broader efforts to stabilize the economy and support industrial growth through improved electricity supply. Nigeria's currency, the Naira, recorded its first annual appreciation in more than a decade, marking what economic analysts describe as a major shift in the country's foreign exchange landscape. According to a new economic outlook report, the Naira strengthened by about 6.87% in 2025. The currency began the year trading at around 1,541 Naira per dollar and ended at roughly 1,435 Naira per dollar in official markets. Experts attribute the turnaround to several reforms introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria, including the launch of the Nigeria Foreign Exchange Code and an electric FX machine system aimed at improving transparency and market efficiency. These policies, analysts say, helped attract nearly $21 billion in capital inflows, boosted foreign reserves, and narrowed the gap between official and parallel exchange rates. Despite the improvement, economists warned that Nigeria's debt servicing obligations, projected at 15.52 trillion naira in 2026, remain a major constraint on government spending. A federal high court in Abuja has discharged and acquitted suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police Abba Kyari of a 23-count charge related to alleged false asset declaration. Delivering judgment, the court ruled that prosecutors failed to provide sufficient evidence linking Kyari to properties allegedly concealed from official records. The case had been filed by Nigeria's anti-drug agency and also involved Kyari's two brothers. The judge stated that the prosecution did not present credible documents establishing ownership of the properties cited in the charges. As a result, all defendants were cleared of the allegations. The ruling marks a significant legal development in one of Nigeria's most closely watched corruption and law enforcement cases. Islamic clerics in Lagos have warned Nigerians to avoid protests linked to the Middle East conflict, cautioning that demonstrations can be easily hijacked by criminal elements. Speaking during a Ramadan gathering, religious leaders urged citizens not to involve themselves in conflicts they do not fully understand. They also warned that global tensions in the Middle East could disrupt oil supply chains and push petrol prices in Nigeria significantly higher. According to the clerics, the price of petrol could climb to 2,000 naira per litre if international supply disruptions intensify. Nigeria's anti-narcotics agency has revealed that more than 2.5 million kilograms of illicit drugs were seized at the country's seaports between 2021 and 2025. Authorities estimate the street value of the confiscated drugs at over 3 trillion naira. The data highlights both the scale of drug trafficking attempts and the increasing intensity of enforcement operations. Officials say traffickers frequently exploit container shipments and maritime cargo routes to move large quantities of illegal substances. Security agencies say new intelligence strategies and improved cooperation among port authorities are helping to disrupt these networks. Amid public concern over Nigeria's recent tax reforms, authorities have clarified that many low-income artisans will not be required to pay personal income tax. Under the new framework, individuals earning below 800,000 naira annually or up to 1.2 million under certain policy adjustments are exempt from taxation. This means many small-scale workers, including vulcanizers and other informal sector operators, may fall below the taxable threshold. However, artisans whose earnings exceed the limit will be required to comply with personal income tax obligations through direct assessment. Officials say the reform is intended to expand Nigeria's tax base while protecting the poorest workers. Authorities in Lagos State say more than 4,000 residents have been prosecuted in the past year for illegally dumping waste across the city. Offences include disposing of refuse on roadsides, drainage channels, and road medians. The state government says enforcement is a key part of its strategy to improve environmental sanitation and reduce the growing waste management challenge. Lagos generates over 13,000 metric tons of waste every day, making it one of the largest urban waste producers in Africa. Officials say new landfill projects and stricter monitoring of waste contractors are being introduced to strengthen the system. And that concludes today's Papyrus Global TV Nigerian news update. From diplomatic developments in Abuja to economic reform, security operation, and environmental enforcement, these stories continue to shape Nigeria's national conversation and its place in the global community. For more in-depth coverage, interviews, and analysis on governance, economy, and leadership across Africa, stay connected to the Papyrus Global TV. I am your host, Christiana Babayo. Thank you for watching, and we wish you a productive and peaceful day ahead.